So as we're going through this, just write down the answers for now. We don't really have time to go through the work of everything, and then I'll show you how you would do it on Desmos so you can go back and look at that later. So for number 1, the answer was x equals 0. Just write down x equals 0. You can go back and do the work at a later time. Number 2, the answers were x equals -4/3 and x equals 2. 3, the answers were x equals -6 and x equals 2/5. So almost all of these two sections could have been done on Desmos. So I'm going to show you those 3 first. So the first one, if you put that in, it would give you a line. You would just have to know that it's x equals 0 and write that as your answer. Second one is going to give you 2 answers when you put that entire thing in, so look for where it crosses the x-axis. The first one you'd have to convert to a fraction. And then same thing with the third. And you could leave the second one as a decimal or a fraction. Anyone still need the answers? Remember, we're not writing the work right now. Number 4 was no solution. 5 was one solution, and that solution was x equals 0. You can write either or, it doesn't matter. 6 was infinitely many, so was 7. 8 was C, x equals 0. Nine was D, x equals 7. 10 was negative 12.5. 11 and 12 were repeats of 2 and 3. I don't know why that was, but the answers are the same. So you can write them down, or you can just say that they were the same. -4/3 and 2, and 6 and 2/5. Did you have a question? I'll quickly show those in Desmos. So 4, if you just put in the original, nothing would show, so you would have to put in each side individually, and you would see that you have 2 lines that don't cross, that are parallel, so no solution. And then 5, you would get x equals 0, that one line. I think this should be 6. I don't know. But the same thing happened. When you put in the original, nothing happens, but if you put them in individually, you see that they overlap. It's infinitely many. 8, you get x equals 0. 9, you can put in both sides. It will give you that answer of 7. And then 10, you can put in both sides, but you may have to zoom out and figure out that it's negative 12.5. $13 was D. 14 was C. 15, you have to plot this solution, so where it crossed the x-axis, so that would be at these 2 points. 16 was what were the steps for each. So I'll let you write that down. You don't have to write what's in parentheses, really just what's on the line. So between step 1 and step 2, subtraction property of equality, you can shorten that, subtract POE, because we subtracted on both sides. Between step 2 and step 3, additive inverse. So they canceled, or we had different signs that canceled. It became 0. Step 4, we actually subtracted, but the step would be substitution, because that's something we know. Step 4 to step 5, additive identity. I think that's step 4 to step 5. Anyway, additive identity, we added 0. Step 5 to step 6, division property of equality, divided the same thing to both sides. And then step 7, multiplicative inverse. We are multiplying by something to get 1, or the inverse to get 1. I'm going to show you the answer to 17, and then I'll show you these ones in Desmos, or 13 and 14 in Desmos, and then we'll go on to the quiz. Was C. We added on both sides. And then for 13, if you put that in, you'll get 2 answers. And you would just have to see which of those 2 match the ones that you have. Actually, I think that one, it asked for both. So maybe 14, you just needed one of them. It was one of them. So I think this one, it either gave you one of these, you had to figure out which one, or it gave you both, you had to figure out which one. Remember that these are good practice. You may be forgetting to do them, but still go back and do them even though you have the answers. That way when you go to take the SOL, when you see it on the SOL, you remember how to find it on Desmos. The ones that are due next Friday are the following: A4C through F, A5A through C. It sounds like a lot, but they're like 3 to 4 questions each. So if you added them all up, it would be the same amount you've been doing. So A4C through F, A5A through C. So then let's go through the quiz, starting with the no calculator section. For the most part, you guys did fine on this section. There were some issues, but for the most part, everyone got this one. The answer was C. They don't cross, so it would be no solution. Make sure you're fixing these if need be. For 2, you should have been solving this by graphing, so if you did anything but graph them, that was incorrect. So you should have solved both equations, got rid of the 2x by subtracting, got rid of the 6x by subtracting. We have negative y equals negative 2x minus 3, 2y equals negative 6x minus 4. Divide the first one by negative 1. So that y equals 2x plus 3. Divide the other one by 2. So that y equals negative 3x minus 2. Solving both equations were both worth 1 point. Graphing both equations were also both worth 1 point. correctly. That was your 2x plus 3, and then your other one starts at negative 2. And then the other one will look like that. So they crossed at negative 1, 1. That was your solution. And the solution was worth 1. What questions do we have on that? So 1, make sure you're reading the directions. Some of you didn't read the directions and it cost you points. On to the back, or on to the next page. So for number 3, you had to solve this 2 different ways. Substitution and elimination. How you did substitution or elimination could be different than what I'm about to do. Don't erase. You can write it down if you want to. So for substitution, some of you solved for this x or this y. Some of you solved for this x or this y. You had that choice. I would say moving forward, if you're doing by substitution, either of these would be easier. This is fine as long as you can divide everything out and everything works out. Otherwise, you may end up with fractions that you don't want. So I'm going to solve this one for x. If you've solved it for y, that's fine. So get rid of the y by subtracting. And then take that piece of the equation, put it into the other one. Make sure you're putting it into the right variable. That didn't happen often, but a couple of you put it into the wrong one and then it messed things up. So then we would distribute. And solve for y. Combine your like terms, get rid of the 24. So we subtract 24. We end up with negative 38. And then if we divide, we should get positive 9.5. So some of you were freaking out because you got decimals or fractions. You were supposed to get fractions or decimals in this case. And then after you got the 9.5, or if you solved for x and got that first, put it back in and figure out what that is. So 2.5, 9.5 should have been your answer, or if you left it as fractions, 5 halves, 19 halves. Before we do elimination, what questions do we have on the substitution? Matthew, do you have a question? All right, for elimination, again, there were multiple ways to do this. Some of you eliminated the x first, some of you did the y first. When you were multiplying to get the same thing, you did different things. So however you did it, as long as you got the right answer was fine. Also, because it's the same problem, you should have gotten the same solution, so you could have written that first. But still did the work to find it. So you would have had to multiply the first equation or this equation by 2. At this point, some of you got rid of the x's, some of you got rid of the y's. Some of you, the order was different. I also didn't multiply by 2 as well. So how you arranged it, you may have gotten not the same thing I'm about to do until later. But let's say we were getting rid of the x's, we would subtract. -2 minus 2 would give us a -4y. If you had those flipped, you would get a positive 4y, so either or does not matter. -14 minus 24, -38, and then that would have given us the same thing. At this point, if you wanted to, you could have not did the other piece of work, not put this back in because it would have been the same thing, or you could have either or. I gave you credit for both. Questions on the elimination piece? And then the last one, we'll see if we can get this done before lunch. So you have to define your two variables. A lot of you use A and S. Some of you use different variables. That was fine. Make sure you're being specific. So price of the adult tickets and the student tickets. Being specific and defining both of those were worth a point apiece. Most of you got your two equations. 15s plus 10a equals 300. And 16s plus 14a equals 375. And setting up both of those were each worth 1 point. Then you had a choice on how you wanted to solve it, by substitution, by elimination. How do we want to solve this? By substitution or by elimination? Okay. So, and I saw different things. Some of you did elimination and got rid of the s's first, or the a's first. Some of you did substitution and got rid of this a, which kind of worked out, so we'll do the same thing. So we get rid of 15s by subtracting it to the other side. We have 10a equals -15s plus 300. Divide everything by 10. So this becomes -1.5s plus 30. So that works out nicely. Then take that equation, put it back into the other. And you could solve for s. You have 16s minus 21s plus 420. Combine your left terms. Get rid of your 420. Some of you, when you did this process, missed a negative somewhere, so you ended up with a negative. But you should end up with two negatives somewhere so that they both cancel. So the price of the student tickets were $9. And then you had to put that back into one of your equations. Doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to put it back into the A. To find your cost of A. A was 16.5. Then when we come back from lunch, we'll talk about last week's question. Other questions on the quiz or general specific questions on the review? General questions in general. Specific questions on the review. Go ahead and clear off your desk. You can either put your calculator up or on the floor. Because the first section is no calculator, you will not need it.